Picture this. You're standing in the ruins of a hive city. The sky is dark with spores. The air smells of acid and decay. And coming toward you, scrambling over rubble and broken buildings, are 50 of the most terrifying biological weapons the galaxy has ever produced. Tyranids, the Great Devourer, an alien swarm that has consumed entire galaxies and is now pouring into the Milky Way with one purpose: to feed. Now picture this. A red and blue figure swings down from above. Web lines catch on broken architecture. He lands in a crouch, looks at the oncoming horde, and probably says something quippy like, "So, who ordered the bug buffet?" Today, we're going to answer a question that combines two of the most beloved franchises in geek culture. Could Spider-Man, Marvel's friendly neighborhood wall crawler, survive an encounter with 50 Tyranids from Warhammer 40,000? This isn't just about who wins. This is about understanding what makes these threats so dangerous. What makes Spider-Man so effective despite being, at his core, just a guy with spider powers. And what happens when Marvel's tactical genius meets the galaxy's most efficient killing machines? We're going to break down Spider-Man's actual capabilities. Not just the movie version, but the comic book version at his peak. We're going to examine exactly what 50 Tyranids means in practical terms. And we're going to game out multiple scenarios to see if the webhead has what it takes to survive the Great Devourer. By the end of this video, you'll understand not just whether Spider-Man could win, but how he would have to fight, what tactics he would use, and what his actual chances are. So let's swing into this analysis. Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive spider. We all know the origin story. Now, but what did that bite actually do to him? What are his capabilities beyond he can stick to walls and shoot webs? Let's start with strength. Spider-Man is often described as having the proportional strength of a spider. That sounds impressive until you realize it doesn't actually mean anything specific. Spiders can lift many times their body weight, but that's because of the square cube law. Scale a spider up to human size and it would collapse under its own weight. So what can Spider-Man actually lift? In the comics, he's consistently shown lifting between 10 and 20 tons. That's 10 to 20,000 pounds. To put that in perspective, that's lifting a full-grown elephant over his head. That's catching a falling car with one hand. That's punching through concrete walls without slowing down. But Spider-Man rarely uses his full strength because he's terrified of hurting people. There's a famous story where Doc Ock takes over Peter's body and punches someone's jaw clean off because he didn't realize how much Peter holds back in every single fight. Next, speed and agility. Spider-Man can run at approximately 40 to 50 miles per hour in short bursts. That's not superhuman by comic standards, but it's Olympic level sprinting. Where he really shines is in reaction time. Spider-Man can dodge bullets, not because he's faster than bullets, but because he reacts to the shooter's muscle movements before they pull the trigger. His reflexes are approximately 40 times faster than a normal human. He can react in microseconds. And then there's the spider sense. This is his most important ability and the one that's hardest to quantify. It's a precognitive danger sense that warns him of threats before they happen. It's not mind reading. It's not seeing the future. It's more like a proximity alarm combined with tactical intuition. When something dangerous is about to happen, the spider sense triggers, and Peter instinctively knows how to move to avoid it. This is why Spider-Man can fight while blindfolded. Why he can dodge attacks from behind. Why he seems to have eyes in the back of his head. The spider sense is feeding him information constantly. Spider-Man's webs are not organic in most versions. They're a chemical compound he invented himself. Peter Parker, remember, is a genius-level intellect. He created a substance that is stronger than steel, flexible, adhesive, and biodegradable, all while in high school. The tensile strength of spider webbing is approximately 120 pounds per square millimeter. A single strand can hold hundreds of pounds. A full web line can hold several tons. Spider-Man has caught falling aircraft with his webs. He's stopped runaway trains. The webs are incredibly strong, but they're also versatile. Spider-Man can adjust the composition on the fly. Thick globs for impact webbing that hits like a fastball. Thin strands for web lines to swing on. Wide nets for catching multiple targets. Dissolvable formulas that break down in minutes or hours depending on what he needs. The webs are also his primary method of combat control. In a fight, Spider-Man doesn't usually punch his opponents into submission. He webs them, immobilizes their arms, tangles their legs, sticks them to walls or floors. He's essentially a mobile crowd control specialist. This is going to be crucial when we talk about fighting swarms, because Spider-Man is uniquely equipped to handle multiple enemies at once. Spider-Man fights like a trickster. He doesn't stand still and trade blows. He's constantly moving, bouncing off walls, swinging around, making himself impossible to pin down. His combat style is built around three principles: mobility, misdirection, and overwhelming the enemy's ability to predict his movements. He talks during fights. This isn't just for comic relief. It's a psychological tactic. He's distracting his opponents, making them angry, causing them to make mistakes. An angry enemy is a sloppy enemy, but beneath the quips, Peter is a tactical genius. He's fought enemies who are stronger than him, faster than him, better armed than him. And he wins by being smarter. He analyzes his opponents during combat, finds their weaknesses, exploits them. There's a fight where Spider-Man faces Firelord, a herald of Galactus with a power cosmic. Firelord can destroy planets, and Spider-Man beats him by leading him into enclosed spaces where Firelord's massive energy blasts become a liability. By using webs to obscure vision, by staying mobile, until Firelord exhausts himself trying to hit him. That's the key to understanding Spider-Man's combat effectiveness. He doesn't win through raw power. He wins through adaptation, intelligence, and making the environment work for him. But Spider-Man is not invincible, far from it. First, he's squishy. He doesn't have armor. He doesn't have super durability. His costume is just cloth. A direct hit from a powerful enemy can seriously hurt him. He's been stabbed, shot, burned, and broken multiple times in the comics. He heals faster than a normal human, but he's not Wolverine. Serious injuries take time to recover from. Second, stamina. Spider-Man can fight for extended periods, but he does get tired. In long battles, his web shooters can run out of fluid, his muscles can exhaust, his reaction time can slow. If he's forced into a prolonged engagement without rest, he becomes vulnerable. Third, the spider sense has limitations. It warns him of danger, but it doesn't give him infinite reaction speed. If attacks come too fast, from too many directions simultaneously, even the spider sense can't help him dodge everything. He can be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Fourth, psychological factors. Peter Parker is, at his core, a good person who doesn't want to kill. Even when fighting monsters or aliens, he hesitates to use lethal force. This can be a liability when facing enemies that need to be put down decisively. Finally, experience with alien threats. Spider-Man has fought aliens before. He's dealt with symbiotes, Skrulls, and various cosmic threats. But he's primarily a street-level hero. His typical opponents are criminals, supervillains, and the occasional demon. He's not used to fighting coordinated military-style swarms of biological weapons. This matters because Tyranids are not like anything Spider-Man has faced before. They don't think like Earth villains. They don't have egos he can exploit. They're not individuals at all in the traditional sense. They're extensions of a hive mind. And that's going to change the dynamics of the fight significantly. The Tyranids are not just an alien species. They're a galactic plague. A locust swarm on an interstellar scale. They come from outside the galaxy, drawn by the psychic noise of life itself. And they exist for one purpose: consumption. Every Tyranid organism is a biological weapon engineered by the hive mind for specific battlefield roles. They don't reproduce naturally. They're grown in biological factories. Vatsal-born creatures designed with specific genetic modifications to counter whatever threats the hive mind has encountered. This is important to understand because Tyranids adapt. Every engagement where they lose, they learn. The hive mind analyzes what killed its organisms, and the next wave comes back with biological countermeasures. Thicker armor if they faced heavy weapons, faster reflexes if they faced melee fighters, ranged capabilities if enemies kept their distance. The Tyranids have consumed entire galaxies. They've fought wars against the Eldar, the Orcs, the Necrons, and the Imperium of Man. They've encountered every type of weapon, every type of tactic, and they're still coming, still adapting, still growing stronger. When a Tyranid swarm attacks a planet, this is what happens. First come the spores. Bioships in orbit that seed the atmosphere with microorganisms that begin breaking down the ecosystem. Plants die, water becomes acidic, the air fills with toxins. Then come the warrior organisms. Hormagaunts and Termagants by the thousands, rushing forward to identify targets and probe defenses. Genestealers infiltrating from hidden angles, larger creatures like warriors and carnifexes, providing coordination and heavy assault capability. Finally, if the planet resists too effectively, come the truly massive bio-titans, hierophants, harridan flying creatures, bioships large enough to level cities with bioplasma. But we're not talking about a planetary invasion today. We're talking about 50 Tyranids, a small swarm by Tyranid standards. but still a significant threat. When we say 50 Tyranids, we need to specify what types. A swarm isn't 50 identical creatures. It's a coordinated force with different organisms, filling different battlefield roles. For this analysis, let's construct a realistic 50 Tyranid swarm, something that would be deployed for scouting or overwhelming a hardened target. 30 Termagants. These are the basic troops of a Tyranid swarm. They're about the size of large dogs, standing perhaps 4 feet tall when hunched forward. They have chitin armored carapaces, multiple limbs with scything talons, and most variants carry flesh borers, organic weapons that fire armor-piercing beetles. Termagants are not individually threatening to a space marine, but they don't fight individually. They attack in waves, overwhelming through numbers. Their carapace can deflect small arms fire. Their talons can rend through combat armor. And they're fast, capable of running at speeds of 30 to 40 miles per hour. 10 Hormagaunts. These are the melee specialists, slightly larger than Termagants. They're built for speed and close combat. They can run at speeds exceeding 50 miles per hour in short bursts. Their scything talons are monomolecular edges that can cut through metal. They're often deployed as shock troops, rushing ahead of the main swarm to break enemy lines. 8 Genestealers. These are where things get dangerous. Genestealers are infiltration and assassination organisms. They're roughly human-sized, moving on all fours like predatory cats. They have 4 arms, each ending in claws that can tear through ceramite armor. They can climb on any surface, cling to ceilings, hide in shadows. Most dangerously, Genestealers are fast. Impossibly fast. They can cross 100 feet in less than 2 seconds. They can dodge laser gun fire. They're smart enough to use tactics, to flank, to wait for opportunities. A single Genestealer can kill multiple trained soldiers before they even realize it's there. 2 Tyranid Warriors. These are the synapse creatures, the nodes of the hive mind's intelligence. Warriors stand 8 to 9 feet tall, heavily armored, with multiple arms carrying both ranged and melee bioweapons. They're as smart as human soldiers, capable of tactics and adaptation. Warriors typically carry death spitters, organic weapons that fire crystal shards with explosive tips, or venom cannons that launch blobs of corrosive acid. In melee, their bone swords can cut through almost anything, and they strike with the strength to decapitate armored soldiers. Most importantly, warriors provide synapse control. As long as a warrior is alive and close enough, the smaller organisms remain coordinated, disciplined, and focused. Kill the warriors, and the lesser organisms may go feral, losing their coordinated tactics. This is our 50 Tyranid force, 30 Termagants for suppressing fire, and numbers, 10 Hormagaunts for speed and melee pressure, 8 Genestealers for assassination and flanking, 2 warriors for coordination and heavy fire support. What makes Tyranids so dangerous isn't just their individual capabilities, it's how they work together. First, the hive mind. Every Tyranid is psychically connected to every other Tyranid through the synapse network. They don't need to communicate. They don't need to plan. The hive mind sees through all of their eyes simultaneously, processes all information instantly, and coordinates their movements with perfect efficiency. This means no confusion, no friendly fire, no wasted movement. Every organism acts in perfect concert with every other organism. It's like fighting a single entity with 50 bodies. Second, fearlessness. Tyranids don't feel fear. They don't retreat to save their own lives. They don't panic when their fellows die. They will throw themselves into impossible situations if it serves the hive mind's purposes. This makes them unpredictable to enemies, used to fighting opponents with self-preservation instincts. Third, biological weapons. Flesh borers, fire beetles that burrow into targets and devour them from inside. Death spitters fire crystalline shards that explode in wounds. Venom cannons shoot acid that melts through armor and flesh. These aren't guns, these are living weapons, grown as part of the organism's body. Fourth, adaptability in real time. If a warrior sees that enemies are dodging attacks from one angle, it will coordinate other organisms to attack from different angles. If the swarm notices an enemy is particularly vulnerable to ranged fire, more organisms will maintain distance and shoot. The hive mind learns during combat. Fifth, environmental advantages. Tyranids don't need rest. They don't need food. During battle, they don't get tired. They can fight continuously until they're destroyed. In a war of attrition, they have a massive advantage. But Tyranids are not invincible. First and most critical, synapse dependence. The smaller organisms, Termagants and Hormagaunts, are not independently intelligent. They rely on the hive mind's guidance through synapse creatures. If the warriors die, and the smaller organisms move too far from the synapse network, they go feral. Feral Tyranids are still dangerous, but they're no longer coordinated. They attack the nearest target without tactics. They don't support each other. They can be picked off individually. Second, the carapace armor has weak points. The joints where limbs connect to bodies are less protected. The underbelly is softer than the dorsal carapace. Eyes are vulnerable. A precise strike to these areas can kill even larger organisms. Third, fire. Tyranids are biological, which means they're made of meat and chitin. Intense heat can damage them. Fire can cause them to retreat or malfunction. This is less relevant to Spider-Man, who doesn't typically use fire-based weapons, but it's worth noting. Fourth, their aggression can be exploited. Tyranids are built to attack. They move forward, press the assault, overwhelm through aggression. This means that they can be led into traps, into unfavorable terrain, into situations where their numbers become a disadvantage. Fifth, the hive mind is playing a long game. In a strategic sense, the loss of 50 organisms means nothing, but in the context of this specific battle, it means the hive mind might not deploy its most advanced tactics for such a small engagement. These 50 Tyranids are likely scouts or cleanup crew, not the elite forces the hive mind would send against truly dangerous threats. This is actually good news for Spider-Man. He's not facing a swarm designed specifically to counter him. He's facing a standard Tyranid reconnaissance force that gives him a fighting chance. Where this fight happens is almost as important as who's fighting. Spider-Man's abilities are heavily dependent on environmental factors. He needs structures to swing from, walls to climb, vertical space to maneuver. For this analysis, let's place the fight in a ruined hive city. This is Spider-Man's ideal terrain, and a realistic location where Tyranids might be deployed. A hive city in Warhammer 40K is essentially a massive urban sprawl, buildings stacked on buildings, reaching miles into the sky. Now, picture that city damaged by war, partially collapsed, full of rubble and broken architecture. This environment gives Spider-Man everything he needs. Tall buildings for web swinging, narrow corridors for funneling enemies, elevated positions for ranged combat, obstacles for breaking line of sight. It's urban terrain, and Spider-Man is an urban fighter. For the Tyranids, this terrain is also favorable. The Genestealers can use the rubble for cover and ambush positions. The smaller organisms can swarm through corridors. The warriors can take elevated positions for ranged fire support. It's not as good as open ground where they could surround an enemy completely, but it's workable. Let's say the battlefield is a section of city about 6 square blocks. Buildings range from 3 to 10 stories tall, many partially collapsed. The streets are cluttered with rubble, destroyed vehicles, and debris. There are interior spaces, open courtyards, narrow alleys, and wide boulevards. Spider-Man enters from one end, perhaps responding to a disturbance or investigating strange readings. The Tyranids are already in the area, deployed to eliminate any remaining resistance before the main swarm moves in. They detect him immediately through the hive mind's psychic sense. The battle begins. Spider-Man's spider sense would trigger the moment the Tyranids focus on him as a target. He doesn't see them yet, but he knows something is wrong. Multiple somethings. The spider's sense is screaming at him from multiple directions. He'd react immediately, leaping upward and firing web lines to gain altitude. This is instinctive for Peter. When faced with unknown danger, get off the ground and assess from above. As he swings up to a rooftop, he'd see them. 30 Termagants scrambling over rubble, moving with unsettling coordination. 10 Hormagaunts sprinting ahead at inhuman speeds. 8 Genestealers disappearing into shadows and broken buildings. 2 warriors standing back, larger than the others. Organic weapons visible. Peter's first thought would probably be something like, okay, not symbiotes, not Skrulls, definitely not from around here. His second thought would be analyzing threats. The fast ones in front are going to close distance quickly. The big ones in back have ranged weapons. The medium ones are disappearing, probably trying to flank. He wouldn't know what Tyranids are. He wouldn't know about the hive mind or synapse control, but he'd immediately understand the tactical situation. He's outnumbered by coordinated hostiles with mixed capabilities. His spider sense would be going crazy, because 50 organisms are all focusing a hostile intent on him simultaneously. This is more danger warnings than Peter is used to processing at once. It would be disorienting, like trying to listen to 50 people screaming at you from different directions. But Peter has fought crowds before. The spider sense is overwhelming, but not debilitating. He can filter the information, and his tactical mind would be forming a plan within seconds. First priority, don't let them surround him. Second priority, take out the coordination. Third priority, thin their numbers while staying mobile. Fourth priority, identify what he's actually fighting so he knows how to kill them efficiently. The Tyranids wouldn't hesitate. The moment Spider-Man is in sight, the warriors would open fire. Death Spitter shards would arc through the air. The Termagants would add their flesh borer fire. The Hormagaunts would accelerate to full speed, trying to close distance. The Genestealers would continue moving into flanking positions. This is where the fight really begins. The first Death Spitter shards come screaming towards Spider-Man. His spider sense triggers a split second before they arrive. He's already moving, twisting in midair as web lines pull him sideways. The shards pass through the space where he was, exploding against the building behind him. Flesh-borer beetles follow, hundreds of them, a swarm of living ammunition. Spider-Man fires impact webbing while swinging, thick globs that intercept some of the beetles midair. Others he dodges through sheer agility, his body contorting in ways that look impossible. He lands on a wall, sticking to vertical surface, and immediately leaps again as Hormagaunts reach the building and start climbing after him. These things can climb. Okay, new information. File that away. Peter's first attack would be web nets. As he swings past a cluster of Termagants, he'd fire a wide spread of webbing, catching 3 or 4 of them in sticky strands. The Termagants thrash, trying to break free. The webbing holds. Their carapace armor doesn't help against this kind of restraint. But the hive mind learns instantly. The other Termagants adjust their positioning, spreading out so one web attack can't catch multiples. They're adapting to his tactics in real time. The Hormagaunts are the immediate threat. They're fast enough that they're keeping pace with his swinging, climbing walls and leaping between buildings. Spider-Man would focus on them next, using precision webbing to their legs, tangling limbs together, causing them to trip and fall. One Hormagaunt gets close enough to swipe at him. Its scything talon cuts through the air where Peter's torso was a microsecond ago. The spider sense gave him just enough warning. He retaliates with a punch full strength because these things look armored enough to take it. His fist connects with the Hormagaunt's skull carapace. The chitin cracks. The creature's head snaps back with enough force to break its neck. It drops, dead before it hits the ground. Okay, Peter thinks. They're tough, but not invulnerable. Hard hits to the head work. Good to know. But now the Genestealers make their move. Spider-Man's spider sense screams danger from behind and above simultaneously. He reacts without thinking, launching himself forward with a web line, just as a Genestealer drops from an overhang where it had been waiting. The Genestealer's claws miss by inches. It lands in a crouch and immediately leaps again, crossing 30 feet in a single bound. Peter's already moving, but this thing is fast. As fast as he is, maybe faster. Another Genestealer comes from his left, using rubble as cover. A third from his right, timing its attack to coincide with the first two. The hive mind is coordinating them for simultaneous strikes from multiple angles. This is the most dangerous moment so far. The spider sense is screaming from 3 directions at once. Peter can't dodge all 3 attacks. He has to choose. He fires web lines at 2 of the Genestealers, thick strands aimed at their torsos. One web hits, sticking the Genestealer to a wall mid-leap. The other Genestealer twists wists in mid-air, impossibly agile, and the web misses. The third Genestealer, the one Peter couldn't web because he ran out of hands, closes distance. Its claws slash. Peter brings his arm up to block. The claws rake across his forearm. His costume tears. Blood appears. It hurt him. Through his spider strength, durability, it's actually cut him. These claws are no joke. Peter kicks the Genestealer in the chest, sending it flying backward into rubble. But 2 more are already moving in. The one he webbed to the wall is tearing free, the webbing holding but not for long. Genestealers are stronger than the organisms he's fought so far. This is where Peter would realize he can't fight the Genestealers in direct melee. They're too fast, too coordinated, and those claws can actually hurt him. He needs to use the environment. He swings into a narrow alley between two buildings. The Genestealers follow. In the confined space, they can only come at him from two directions instead of surrounding him. He webs the entrance behind him as he goes, creating a barrier that will slow them down. While swinging through the alley, he's still being shot at. The Termagants haven't stopped firing. Flesh-borer beetles ricochet off walls. Some get through. Peter feels one impact his shoulder. It tries to burrow into his flesh. He crushes it with his hand before it can dig deep, but the bite is painful and leaves a small wound. He's taking damage. Small damage. But it's accumulating. He needs to end this fight before he's worn down. Peter's tactical mind identifies the priority target. Those two big ones at the back haven't moved much. They're directing the others. He's sure of it. Every time he takes down a few of the smaller ones, the rest adapt their tactics just a little too quickly. Like they're all connected to a central processor. If he takes out those two, maybe the coordination falls apart. But they're protected. The Termagants are between him and the Warriors. The Hormagaunts are actively hunting him. The Genestealers are trying to corner him. He can't just swing straight at the Warriors without getting shredded, so he needs a distraction. Spider-Man swings to the top of a partially collapsed building, getting elevation and distance. The Tyranids pursue, but they're spread out now. Some climbing walls, some running through streets, some taking positions in other buildings. The swarm is trying to surround him again. Peter fires web lines rapidly, not at the Tyranids, but at the building he's standing on. Structural weak points, support pillars already damaged, load-bearing walls with cracks. Then he drops a web bomb. A massive glob of webbing that he's been building up in his shooters. It impacts the weakened structure and pulls. The building groans. Cracks spread. Peter leaps clear as the building collapses. Tons of rubble come crashing down directly onto the swarm below. Termagants are crushed. Hormagaunts are buried. Even a Genestealer disappears under falling debris. The dust cloud is massive. Visibility drops to near zero. And Spider-Man uses the chaos to move. His spider sense lets him navigate even when he can't see. He swings through the dust cloud, using web lines attached to buildings he sensed before visibility failed. He comes out of the dust directly above one of the Warriors. The Warrior's synapse sense detected him, but not in time. Peter lands on its back, sticking to its carapace with his adhesive ability. The Warrior thrashes, trying to dislodge him. Its arms, multiple limbs with weapons, swing back, trying to hit him. Peter webs its arms together, thick binding strands, then wraps web around its head, covering its eyes and mouth. The Warrior stumbles, blinded. Then Peter jumps off and fires his web shooters at maximum output. Web cocoon. Layer after layer of webbing, wrapping the Warrior completely. It becomes a mummy of white strands, struggling, but unable to break free. One synapse creature neutralized. The effect is immediate. The Termagants that survived the building collapse become less coordinated. They're still attacking, but their movements are more erratic. Some are shooting at where Peter was seconds ago instead of where he is. But the second Warrior is still active, and it's learned from its companion's mistake. It's moving now, relocating to a better position, where it can't be ambushed from above. Spider-Man has momentum now. The swarm is disrupted. Roughly 15 Termagants are dead or trapped. 4 Hormagaunts are down. 2 Genestealers were crushed in the building collapse. One warrior is webbed, but is also hurting. Multiple small wounds from flesh borer beetles, a deeper cut on his forearm from Genestealer claws, bruises from impacts he couldn't completely dodge. His web shooters are at about 60% capacity. The remaining Tyranids are adapting. The Genestealers have stopped trying to close with him directly. Instead, they're setting up ambush positions, waiting for him to come to them. The Termagants are maintaining distance, firing in coordinated volleys to force him into predictable movement patterns. The Hormagaunts are staying near the Termagants, protecting them from his web attacks. And the second warrior is positioning itself where it has clear lines of fire, but also cover from his webs. The hive mind has analyzed his tactics. It knows he relies on mobility and webbing, so it's forcing him into a war of attrition. Keep him moving, keep him dodging, wear down his web fluid and his stamina. Eventually, he'll slow down, and then the Genestealers will strike. Peter realizes this. He's fought smart opponents before. He knows when someone is trying to tire him out. So he changes tactics. Instead of staying mobile, he creates a kill zone. He finds a building with a single entrance, good sight lines, and a back exit in case he needs to escape. He webs the entrance, creating a funnel. Thick webbing on the walls and ceiling, creating a tunnel that anything entering has to move through. Then he positions himself at the far end and waits. The Tyranids don't have patience the way humans do, but the hive mind is strategic. It won't just rush into an obvious trap. So Peter gives it bait. He fires web lines out the back exit, making it look like he's escaping. The webs are visible from outside. The hive mind takes the bait. Hormagaunts rush the front entrance, trying to catch him before he escapes. They enter the webbed tunnel, and Peter was waiting. He's not at the back of the building, he's on the ceiling of the tunnel, camouflaged by webs. As the Hormagaunts rush underneath him, he drops web bombs, massive globs of impact webbing, accelerated by gravity and his strength. They hit the Hormagaunts and explode into expanding foam, filling the tunnel with sticky strands. The Hormagaunts are trapped, completely immobilized. Peter finishes them with precise strikes to their heads, punches that crack carapace and destroy whatever passes for their brains. The Termagants try to provide covering fire, but they can't get good angles without entering the tunnel themselves. The ones that try get webbed and beaten down. Within 2 minutes, Peter has eliminated the remaining Hormagaunts and more than half the remaining Termagants. But the Genestealers and the warrior are still out there, and they're not going to fall for the same trick. Spider-Man exits the building through a side window, spider sense keeping him alert for ambushes. The remaining forces are down to maybe 8 Termagants, 5 Genestealers, and 1 warrior. Still dangerous numbers, but manageable now. The warrior is the priority. As long as it's providing synapse control, the others will remain coordinated. Peter needs to take it down. The warrior has learned to stay mobile, moving between positions, never staying in one place long enough for Peter to set up an ambush. It's using the Termagants as a screen, keeping them between itself and Spider-Man. So Peter goes loud. He stops being subtle. He swings directly at the warrior at full speed, web lines pulling him forward like a missile. The warrior sees him coming. It fires its death spitter. Crystal shards fill the air. Peter's spider sense maps every trajectory. He twists, contorts, makes his body